Joining me now is Sarah Matthews. I've been really looking forward to talking to her. She was Deputy White House Press Secretary during the Trump administration, a job I actually had in the Obama administration. She resigned in the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection and then testified before the House January 6th committee. Let me start by saying what you did was incredibly courageous, incredibly.
Thank you so much for saying that and for having me on today.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being here. I just wanted to start with kind of what I said there, because I'm sure for you, I mean, you have said you resigned on January 6th, shortly afterwards, that it was a slow burn, which is a phrase you used that really stuck with me, from the election until January 6th. What is it? How do you digest when you see Donald Trump running towards January 6th, almost proudly running as a part of the insurrection?
I think if you would have told me back when I resigned on January 6, 2021, that just a few short years later, Donald Trump would still be the leader of the Republican Party and be marching toward the GOP nomination for 2024, and that he would not be showing any remorse for January 6, I would be shocked. Because
he's embracing it.
He's embracing it. And that's what's most crazy to me, is that he has continued to double down on his election lies, despite there being zero evidence of fraud, shown zero remorse for what happened on January 6th. And I mean, look at it. Obviously, we've seen the footage of police officers being beaten by these rioters that day. And it is horrific for me to watch that footage back. It gives me chills just thinking about it. But also, when you really think about it, too, Donald Trump put a target on his own vice president's back that day. They were chanting things like, hang Mike Pence. And even to this day, he does not care.
I'm sure you've been watching, because you've been so outspoken, kind of how he's been talking in public in recent days and weeks. And you're someone I know from the role. You probably read speeches, you edited speeches. You're very familiar with how he talks. Mm-hmm. As you're watching, do you think he's gotten worse, more unhinged?
I do think that he's gotten more unhinged in his rhetoric. Obviously, Donald Trump's first 4 years in office were marked by lots of controversies. But I think that the type of rhetoric that he's using today, it's really concerning. It's almost Hitler-esque in a way, especially when he talks about things like immigration, saying things like poisoning the blood of our country. I mean, he's trying to prey on people's worst instincts and get them angry and riled up. And that's something he tends to do. But it's just the rhetoric that he's using is really concerning to me now.
As it's concerning to so many people. And that may be it. But because you've watched him, you worked in the White House, what do you want people to know about the threat of a second term?
I think it sounds pretty alarmist when folks like myself are out there saying that Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy. But at the end of the day, you don't have to take my word for it. You just have to look at what he's saying and pay close attention. When he says things like he's going to be a dictator on day one, and not even just his words, he showed us already what a second Trump term would look like by the way his first term ended. Because, look, he could not accept the fact that he lost in 2020 to Joe Biden. So then he tried to overturn a free and fair election and helped incite an insurrection on our nation's capital. And so I think that is exactly what a second Trump term would look like then, because it shows that he has no regard for our Constitution, for our institutions, or for the rule of law, because he thinks he's above the law.
Let me ask you about that period of time. I mean, you have sort of this famous, I'm sure you did not intend for it to be famous, but moment where you are kind of waving around papers and saying, does it look like we're effing ahead? I'm paraphrasing here and not using the actual word. Do you worry that if he's reelected, he might try to hold on to the presidency again? Is that something we should all be talking about and aware of more?
Yeah, I think it is something that we need to be very aware of, is not just what would happen if he loses, but if he wins again. I mean, obviously, it would be his second term if he were elected again. And so you would think that he would be out of office. But I think that he would try to do anything to stay in power. And I think that's what's going to be so critical then, is who he chooses for his vice president. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, that person then would be in charge of certifying the next election and all of that. And I think that that is really concerning to me, because obviously we've seen some of his potential VP picks out there auditioning, saying things like they wouldn't have done what Mike Pence did on January 6th, that they would have not certified the election. And so I think it is something that reporters...
Some of them were hiding behind desks on January 6th. We know who they are.
Yes, exactly. And so it's really ironic then to hear them say that January 6th rioters were hostages now and use a language like that because I think we've seen that their statements in the immediate aftermath of January 6th show that their feelings then are very different than what they're saying today.
You've mentioned Mike Johnson before. You've talked about him. And Liz Cheney has talked about the enablers. And you know so well, as you just described, it's not just Donald Trump. There need to be people enabling him. Do you worry about him being an enabler?
Specifically Mike Johnson? Yeah, no, I'm definitely concerned about that. I think right now, today, what we're looking at with the Ukraine aid bill and him holding this up, I mean, Congress right now is on recess, the House is, and they don't go back until February 28th. I think I saw Brian Fitzpatrick on TV the other day, congressman from Pennsylvania, saying that it's not a matter of months, it's a matter of weeks before the soldiers in Ukraine run out of ammunition and resources. And so you would think that then Speaker Mike Johnson would be doing everything he could to try to get this aid to them. And especially in the wake of Navalny's death. I think that we need to be sending a message as America and say we're going to stand on the side of freedom and not on the side of evil and Putin. But instead, it seems like Speaker Mike Johnson is more concerned with appeasing Donald Trump.
And that could play out post an election. And that's something that used to be a fundamental of the Republican Party. You know, I wanted to ask you, I was struck, and I mentioned this to you during the break, I read through the transcript of your conversation from yesterday with Alyssa Farah and Cassidy Hutchinson, and I was just struck by how your three young women who are powerfully having your voices heard courageously, you are being attacked from the right, attacked by members of the MAGA base. I just wanted to ask about your friendship and kind of, do you have a text chain? How do you guys stay in touch? Are there other people that you think are going to be out there between now and the election that will join your text chain, I should say?
I'm so grateful for Cassidy and Alyssa. And also I will add to that Olivia Troy and Stephanie Grisham. They are some of the women from the Trump administration who have also spoken out. And so, yeah, I have a text chain with them. We talk in it almost daily, if not daily, then definitely multiple times a week. And I think speaking out against a former U.S. president can be a very isolating and scary feeling, but it definitely gives me a lot of strength to know that I have these women by my side to get through this together. And I'm hopeful that more Republicans will come.
Anyone on your mind?
I don't know. I think that it's obviously we look around and it's mainly the women and especially young women who are speaking out. And so I would just encourage maybe the men who are twice my age, who held way higher positions of power than me, who also know that Donald Trump is unfit to serve, to speak out. And I know that we've got some time before Election Day, but I'm hoping that as we get closer and they see the threat that Donald Trump is and the very real chance that he could be president again, that they will come forward.
Grow some, you know what? That's my shorthand. So let me ask you, I mean, you've been very clear you don't want President Trump to be back in the White House. You've courageously talked about the threat. You are a Republican. That's why you joined the White House. You've worked for Republican candidates. Are you open to supporting Joe Biden?
Yeah, I have said that if it is a choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in a general election, that even if I don't agree with the policies of President Biden, that I would put policy aside and I would cast my vote for him for democracy, because I look at Donald Trump and this is someone who has shown us that he will not uphold the Constitution. And so there's no question in my mind then that I would be voting for Joe Biden. But I will say right now, my support has been with Nikki Haley. I'm really encouraged to see her performance last night in South Carolina. I know she lost, but look, she garnered 40% of the vote. And that shows that there is a faction in the Republican Party that wants to leave Donald Trump behind. And so it gives me hope for the future.
If it makes you feel any better, I have already put evac on alert. He's ready to go if it comes to that. General, I can assure you.
Hey, General, let me into the war room to see you, so I had to hack my way onto this frequency.
This better be critical, Willie.
Sir, come on, what is it now, please? Okay, couple of things. I'm running low on the dough. I was thinking about taking a couple of months sick leave, maybe starting today. And, oh yeah. I intercepted a transmission from Megatron.
Then send it through.
Yes, sir, right away, sir. And so I was so damn weird, caught on to let us know.
This is your last warning, insects. Relinquish what remains of the Allspark.
So who's the insect? You? What? Who's the insect?
Protect you. They were defeated on our world, and we will defeat them here.
Sir, milk it for him.
This was just a diversion.
Security, please bring him up. Rabbit, she's already inside. Deeds! Give me an update on that reserve. Boss readiness. What was his name? What was it?
Evac, sir.
Right, evac.
She's right in front.
We're facing a heavy sustained attack. They appear to be after the All-Spark.
General! General! Need to evac immediately, General. Evac immediately. Hold on. National security advisor. Stay down. Check it out. Failed their mission celebrations. The amateurs for a suicide mission.